great event for you. So all the best for you. I'm from Lund University, but I also work for some of the other universities in Sweden on open education and quality in open education and open education resources. And as it is the Baltic OER meeting, I decided to talk about quality in open education resources and open educational practices, which I rather prefer to call it. I'm the Vice President of SED. I'm a member of IT and higher education in Sweden. I have worked with several universities, and I have worked and worked with several organization projects about open education resources, like the one we have in Sweden, OER Sweden, and this Boldic project, and also the Nordic OER network, and the LAN OER, which is a language OER project on small languages and small cultures. I'm also an editor for a project which is called Sequent, together with ENCA, which is the Association for Quality in Higher Education, and together with F12, European Foundation for Quality in E-Learning, and EITU, European Association for Distance Teaching University. And now I'm also a research leader for ICDE on quality standard studies. ICDE is the International Council for Distance Education, and actually that's the reason why I had to fly to Oslo this evening. And thank you very much for taking my presentation a bit earlier, because tomorrow they will have a meeting at ICDE and I need to be there. And there will also be a presentation about this language OER project. OER in small languages, like actually ours, like the Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish, Latvian, and some others. I know that we have the same kind of common understanding about open education resources, but I just wanted us to be on the same page when we're discussing about quality and open educational resources. And this is the most common definition from UNESCO and Commonwealth of Learning. I think you can just read it very briefly yourself. Is it visible for you in the back? So the main thing is resources which are in the public domain with open licensing, which you can properly use, adapt, and reshare. And there can be different kind of media. There is a wide definition, which I think personally is more important, and that is that working with open educational resources is some kind of empowering process for learning. And it also brings some pedagogical practices. And that is why I think it's important to not just talk about the resources as such, but to talk about open educational practice. How can we use it in daily life for learning? And working with open educational resources, the quality in education and learning can be improved and enhanced at all levels. This is a definition from Finance Brady and Umar from Commonwealth of Learning. We all know that we got the Paris Declaration in 2012. That is 2 years ago. How many of you are familiar with the Paris OER Declaration? 2. I used to have this slide when I was doing research. And I used to get, when I asked a question, I used to get the same kind of answers. Because I think, I don't know if it's some kind of phenomenon, but I think we in the Nordic countries are not really so familiar with this declaration. We know that open educational resources started already in 2001 when MIT when MIT launched their courses for free, and then UNESCO followed up with large initiatives, and then about 10 years later they came with this Paris Declaration in some 10 rather simple points. to the member states to follow up with in 2 or 3 years. That is almost now. To raise awareness of use, to enabling environments for use of open educational resources, to formulate strategies and policies in the countries, work with open licensing frameworks, work with sustainable development of quality. And the rest of the 5 are to form strategic alliances, like for example we are doing now the Boldic project, and the other ones. To work on a variety of languages and cultural contexts, and that is why this OER project, for example, is one part of this strategy. To work on research, and I think there we have a lot to do. To find and retrieve and share open educational resources, and the main thing is that what is paid by public funds should go back to the taxpayers, to the people. And that is why open educational resources are so important. I think it is important, when we are talking about quality, to also talk about how open is open. Most of the resources are licensing with the Creative Commons licensing, and we have everything from copyright, and there are 4 different licensing which can be combined in 6 different ways. And those who are really, would say, promoters of open educational resources say that it is just those 2 which are open educational resources, with attribution and with share alike. Those resources which you can't adapt and when you can't use for other purposes are not really open. But I think you, as well as me, see that when you're looking for open educational resources, quite often we have very strong licensing for those materials. I think this is very, very much a question of quality. How do we license our materials? And how are we using the materials which we are finding? So Jan Daniel, the former CEO for Combat Learning, he said that OERs have the potential to solve the global education crisis and contribute to sustainable economic growth. I think that makes a huge responsibility for us who work in education and universities and other educational systems. How can we be part of this sustainable economic growth that we really need to share? We can't do everything ourselves and reinvent the wheel all the time ourselves. Like for example, they are doing at the OER universities. How many of you are familiar with that? Some of you? That is a consortia that started with Wayne Macintosh in New Zealand. Now it is a consortium consisting of around 20 universities around the world. Athabasca is one of those. Not that many in Europe, none in the Nordic countries or Baltic countries. But what it is that, I mean, mainly when we talk about open educational resources, we used to talk about a resource which is rather small, maybe a film, maybe a text, maybe some media. But what this is about, and what I think is really the strength, and we have to move that way far ahead, is that we also have to provide longer courses. And this is exactly what this consortium is doing. So students can take one course at all those universities, and they have their portfolio with all the courses, and then they can go to one of the members in the consortium and say, hey, I go to Athabasca. Hey, I have done all these courses. Now I would like to have my degree, my bachelor or my master, provided from all those kind of universities. That is really something about openness. And that is really something about quality, because all those universities who are involved also are peer reviewing, of course, each other. and they are also working together with each other, and that makes quality very, very high. And it's really about openness, as I said. Another question about OER is this OER research hub. If you're looking for either material, courses, resources, a researcher, projects, etc., or something about open educational resources, it can be found here at this research hub. But of course, someone had to do something as well there. So that's also why I'd like to encourage you, when you're working with open educational resources and doing something good, please be so kind and gentle to let your resources be available for all of us. Because this is the platform for resources. To build an understanding of what open education is. And also, for example, if you would like to join a project or you have a project yourself, you would like to find a partner, you can always come to this hub. And the more material which is here, the more people who are here, the more resources which are here, we can grow the development of open educational resources and open education practices. I mentioned when Macintosh was one of the universities, 21, OER universities. He very much talked about quality is very much about the process and expression of an ID. And I know that Henry is sitting here in the auditorium and you work very much with open education of IDs in this European project. And that is also the way forward to start with developing resources already from the ID basis, because then you are more committed to share. Macintosh should say also that when you start in this way with sharing IDs, then with the system with peer review, the quality can be enhanced, because you are people working together, and two people see more than just one people alone. So quality in open educational resources can be improved over time. In UK, the JISC have had a lot of money and a lot of projects about open educational resources, and they have developed a OER info toolkit. If you haven't come across it before, I would really recommend you to look at it, because they got a lot of help. And they say that the quality is more or less on 4 levels. First of all, on self-assessment. Of course, institutions, departments, don't put anything away if it's not good enough. It is self-assessed by themselves. I mean, not good enough, not that it needs to be, so high that you can't reach that level, but there is some kind of self-assessment when you would like to share something. And then there are those internal quality processes, and there is sometimes a rating system. For example, if you have used an open educational resources, you can often rate it, like you can do in Amazon and booking.com. You can rate how good it is. And then you have the individual review. So I would say that sometimes open educational resources are more quality reviewed than other kind of resources, which are hidden by copyright. They also say that quality have to be followed with a special kind of lenses, and that is about accuracy, about the reputation of the author or institution. If the author or the institution produce a lot of open educational resources, then you get qualified for that, and you got some kind of repetition, and you maybe will be invited for as a keynote speaker at conferences, or maybe projects or research or whatever it can be. For example, I have very good examples from Oxford University when they started to encourage teachers to use Creative Commons licensing for their work. their academics said that they were very, very, to a high extent, invited to come, for instance, to research projects, etc., etc. It's also very much about accessibility and services, of course, and not at least about trust. Of course, if I trust my Swedish colleagues here, for example, then of course would like to use your material, and when I use your material, you build your network in this kind of way with people you trust. And if, for example, I trust Göran and Ulf, and the people who know me, they know that I trust Göran and Ulf, and then they can also trust Göran and Ulf, and it goes like that way, and you build your own your network. So quality is very much about trust. Furthermore, they have divided quality in both pedagogical aspects. About learning and teaching consideration, about the use and reuse of open educational resources, how to identify stakeholders, and about cultural considerations. So that is from the pedagogical side. They have also identified dimensions from the technical aspects, and that is dimensions like, of course, the technique as such, but also about the hosting and the repositories, about metadata and resources, how you describe it, about aggregation, about accessibility, not at least for disabled people of some kind. And then, of course, for production and models and workflow. So you need to have some kind of infrastructure within your institutions when you're working with open educational resources, and to make the work with open educational resources like the practice. Approximately a year ago, EADTU, the European Association for Teaching and Distance University, developed a quality model, mainly for MOOCs. But I would say that it will be very valuable for open educational resources as such. That is about openness to learners. How open is it? Because of this kind of licensing you use. For example, about digital openness, about how learner-centered is the resource, about independent learning. Can you use the resource like an independent learner? About media, and of course about quality and then the spectrum of diversity. And for the MOOCs, for example, when you reach all those dimensions, which have other dimensions as well, you can also get a label for your MOOC. There are other quality systems like this TIPS. Do anyone know about that? No? TIPS is a very, I would say, maybe more in, it is developed by Global Learning by Karachi, and he and his colleagues has done research about quality on open educational resources and come up to those 4 levels. The T is about teaching and learning processes. The I is for information and material content. P is for presentation, product and format, and S for system, technical and technology. So tips. And like education and such, about like MOOCs, the previous slide I had, it is important to have this contextual quality developing system. So you need to look at the tips as such, not just one of the levels. Karachi also say that there are 5 domains of learning, and we recognize that for campus learning as well, and I've done it for many years. But maybe it's more, even more important to look at those domains when you're developing open educational resources and how to make it work in practice. Last year, the RTS, which is a research institute for European Union, came out with this report, authored by Anthony Camilleri, Daniel Ullers, and Jan Boldic. They made a review of state-of-the-art for quality issues related to communication resources. They have covered some of those aspects which I have mentioned, and I would really like to recommend you follow this report. And also this one, which is from Sir Daniel and Starenka Boldic. They have gone some steps further on. They now more talk about this is a guide to quality in post-traditional online higher education. So what do they mean by post-traditional? I think that this is a step further on for us, because it talks very much about open education resources and open education practices and books. And that we need to look at that in another way than we do with regular online learning. And they say, for example, that the globalization is important. And also that there is a need for more research in this area, and to maybe see it more like a lifelong learning context. And they say also, that is maybe not new for us sitting in this room, that the biggest challenge in innovation is envisioning a new paradigm and abandoning the old constructs. We need to see the books and the open education resources in another way, and not just put it in this kind of frame we already have. And the main question in their report is, as well as it is when I used to talk about those questions, the main thing is, what's in it for me as an individual learner? I want you to say that quality is on the behalf of the philosopher. So what's in it for me? In the end, it is the individual who judges what is quality. I have my presentation on SlideShare, so I like to share my things. I have my contact details. So I have to take any questions, yes, or comments?
I have one question. I have a question. You're mentioning opens here, open one, open two, open three, but still for many people, for most people, open learning are closed. Are there opens missing, or are there other opens are necessary?
Yeah, I would say that there are other opens necessary. Because as I said in one of my slides, for example, is for the licensing. Very many use those licenses which are rather close. For example, that this attribution and share alike is free communication resources. And then I also think this dimensions, as for EADTU, for example, those for MOOCs. Those are really about openness. And also, quite often we use, for example, open educational resources in our learning management systems, which are very closed. So that's not open. And I think and I believe that as well as that is why one of the reasons why the European Commission, for example, launched this initiative last year, opening up education to boost innovation and skills in education. I think we really have to embrace the concept of openness.
Okay, thank you very much, Ebba.